A few days ago, I rewrote every page of my website, and it wasn't me sitting at a keyboard picking new words. It was an AI agent. It ran a 22-phase project plan. It rewrote 54 files across 5 steps in 4.5 hours. The website used to say, I use Claude Code and can help you. Claude rewrote a website that says, I build agents with domain experts. And what actually happened is the content. It's the thing that made it work. And it's probably the opposite of what you'd guess. Now, if I look through it, here's the actual commit messages. Claude is going through every single step of it, and it's saying, I've got this messaging framework, and I need to apply it to this website. Now, before any code changed, 3 things needed to happen in sequence. The first is I needed to figure out who I was selling to. My co-founder Gab actually built a set of product marketing skills. It's like these frameworks that force you through structured decisions. I'm not saying brainstorm your brand. It's more answer these questions, get scored, see where you're weak. It was this great Claude skill. And I gave it access to my website repo. And I said, let's do this messaging. Let's figure out. It ran 3 of them on my own business. The first was ICP definition. So ideal client profile. Who am I selling to? And we landed on a 1 to 5 employees, like solo or 2 co-founders with revenue about $100,000 a year. Like, I'm not really looking for the people who are just starting fresh. It's more a lot of people have this expertise, and because of AI, they're suddenly wanting to do something with it, make a business with it. They're empowered to do things. The skill force narrowing, because before I was talking to a lot of people. Like if we look into the GitHub here, my initial main message was AI consulting plus workshops plus methodology, or your business running on AI. It spoke to everybody, but it didn't really speak to anyone. So now it's something I think is a lot better. Turn your expertise into a working system. I'm an agent builder at the end of the day. Like, I build agents. And I think that this is really important with regards to defining who I am and figuring out what I'm going to do with that. After I figured that out, it was a question of the positioning audit. So what are my core positions? What do I believe? And we landed on 4 pillars. The category was like agent builder, because there's a lot of people that, like dev shops, they build for you. AI consultants, they advise you. Courses teach you. But nobody really builds with you right now. There's a lot of people who want to learn, but they don't want to just do a course. They want to actually create a business with that knowledge. So that's the quadrant. Nobody was there. Once I figured out that positioning, it was a question of the messaging, because I've learned over the years with Claude, because I've been using it extensively for over a year now since it came out on Claude Code. And it's just that it's less about the execution and more about the planning. And here the messaging was very much a question of, my point of view is AI compresses the cost of building a business system from like 100,000 and 6 months to $2,000 and a week. The value prop is in the middle of that. It's about turning the years of experience or domain expertise into a working system in a few days. The 3 benefits needed to have specific proof points. And I do have clients, but none of those proof points were being published, were being shared, were being shown. I need to show up with that. Now, I had the 3 documents I had created, and the next step was very much getting it to work. I started a Ralph loop, which is a autonomous loop that allows an agent to work by itself at 10 p.m. I gave it the project definition, and it picked up the stories in order. It did the work, it committed them, and then it moved on to the next one. You can see it here. It went from installing the messaging to the homepage hero rewrite, homepage paths, the about page, the consulting page, did the nav and the footer. And it was Before it's doing all of this, because as you can see, starts at number 4, it spent 3 stories, almost an hour, just auditing. It figured out, it read every single marketing page on the site, and it produced a gap analysis. It caught a lot of contradictions. I didn't realize it, but my pricing page was saying I build it for you, and the consulting page was saying I build AI workflows with you. It was the same site for on one page and with on another. The agent flagged that immediately. It also caught that the homepage said teams when most of who I work with are 1 or 2 and they don't really consider themselves teams. A human copywriter would probably quote 2 to 3 days for that audit. Ralph did it in 1 hour in one pass because at least I had done the work and the messaging framework was already solid. It told it exactly what to look for. Without the ICP, the positioning and the hierarchy, like the audit would have produced make the copy punchier. And that's the thing a lot of people don't get about AI. It's a lot about what you put into it. With these positioning documents, you go a lot further and you get an actually good result from the first pass. Phase 2 is very much just like the core pages. So the homepage hero, the about page, the consulting page, and the nav and footer. It did all those stories in one pass. The homepage hero feels like me now a lot more. It's something that talks to people and it's saying, hey, either you want to do this and you want to figure out if this is the right plan for you, or you want to start a 7-day sprint and you want to do it by yourself. I had done this previously, but I had tried building a course for my audience and it did work a bit, but it's just like, it wasn't exactly where I wanted to go. Once it did that, actually, it went through and it did a lot of the secondary pages. And I find oftentimes when I've done brand refreshes in the past, it's like we spend so much time on the main pages because those are the ones that people actually visit most of the time. But when it comes to someone who is really motivated and who is auditing you to see if you're the right fit for them, especially if they're like launching their business, the secondary pages are really important, right? So it went through and it redesigned every single one of them and it made sure that the messaging was consistent. Like it went from learn to build to prove you can build. Small words, but feels different. Learn appeals to students and information gatherers. That's not who I want to work with. Prove appeals to domain experts or people with imposter syndrome who need to see themselves do it before committing a few $1,000s. The FAQ got completely rebuilt as well. And I love this because it did it itself without me needing to necessarily guide it through this. So it went and changed it from everything you know about the sprints, very much me, to questions you might ask about it, questions domain experts might happen to ask. Finally, it once it did this, it didn't stop there and actually rewrote all of my lead magnet pages. Everything that I had that was supporting, from an I build automation systems to I build agent systems with domain expertise. The positioning holds from hero section to legal to even the fine print. It made me laugh, but it even added this like little game at the bottom of my site, which I find it's the little things that make you feel like you're, wait, I need to be very concentrated to get this. That make you feel like something's a bit more polished. And that's the vibe I'm going for. So now a bit of the numbers. It was 22 stories. It took 5 iterations. It did 19 commits throughout this. It changed 54 files. It inserted 2,167 lines. It deleted 912 lines. It created 3 new pages. There were 0 build failures and there were 0 slop incidents. And that's in 4.5 hours. And a copywriting agency would probably scope this as a project that would take weeks or months. Like it would be discovery phase and stakeholder workshops and drafts and revision rounds and alignment and implementation. The discovery workshop for me was 3 PMM skills from my co-founder that produced actual strategy documents. The stakeholder alignment was me choosing options in real times. And the revision rounds didn't exist because the framework was good enough and specific enough that the first draft is the aligned version. Like process compression isn't only about speed, it's about eliminating unnecessary rounds of front loading clarity, more or less. Like the model doesn't write the copy, the framework writes the copy. The model just types it. Without the ICP document, the agent would have just written generic copy for generic people. And I think that's a lot of people's experience with AI. Without that positioning audit, it wouldn't have known the for versus with distinction. Without the messaging hierarchy, it wouldn't have known which benefit to deploy on which page or which proof point to use where. The agent did what I do with consulting clients. It tries to understand first and then it builds. Like session one is never building, it's always mapping. The domain expertise goes in, the framework goes in, and the brief goes in. Then the building is fast because every decision kind of is already made. The clients who skip this step, like they're like, just build me an app. They're not the people I want to work with. I'd like to understand first and then build second. The pattern showed up at every level. There were the skills before I coded, the audit stories before any copy, and the agent following the same process that I myself teach and do. One more thing, actually. The 3 skills that produce the strategy documents were built by my co-founder. And if you want, I have the GitHub down in the link below, but it's really cool to just have it go through and help you understand what's happening. The tools are eating their own cooking. Like an agent rewriting a site about building agents using a framework built by a co-founder who uses skills we built together. The website is the proof that this method works. I'm not saying the copy is good. I will review every line and I will make changes, but because the process is exactly what I sell, domain expertise, the positioning work plus agent execution equals output the expert alone couldn't produce at this speed. I'm going to keep reviewing every page. Some of the copy will change. Some of the decisions Ralph made, I'll push back on. I think that's the point. The agent does 90% of the volume. Me as a human, I provide 100% of the judgment. The 90% happened in a single night with just 3 strategy documents and a project plan. So if you're sitting on an idea like a business system, a workflow, a product you've been thinking about for years, and the reason you haven't started is that it feels like it'll take weeks or months, it won't. Not anymore. I guess the question is more, what would you build?